There are many obstacles that can block the path to a successful software project. When you come across one, it helps to think like a seasoned hiker and follow the trail marked by blue blazes around the problem so that you can get back on course and keep moving forward. Welcome to Blue Blazes Podcast. I'm your host for the journey, Jay Tower, and I'm a partner and principal consultant at Trailhead Technology Partners. In this series, we talk with industry experts who share their best tips for avoiding the pitfalls on the path to successful software projects. My guest on this episode of Blue Blazes is Matt Soucoup, Principal Cloud Advocate and .NET Cloud Advocacy Lead at Microsoft. Matt's been working with .NET since version 1.0, and these days he spends most of his time helping developers modernize applications with Azure, .NET, and the latest AI-powered tooling. In this episode, Matt and I dig into GitHub Copilot, App Modernization for .NET, how it's changing the way teams upgrade legacy .NET applications. We talk about what AI-assisted modernization actually means in practice, from assessing older code bases, to planning upgrades, to accelerating real execution, and where Copilot genuinely helps versus where human judgment still matters the most. If you're starting a .NET upgrade and wondering how AI can help you move faster without breaking everything, you won't want to miss this conversation with Matt. All right, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Jonathan. Really happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, really great to have you. I'm excited about our topic today, too. You know, we were talking before the recording about how the theme of this podcast is more successful software projects, because software projects are notoriously difficult and also have kind of a notoriously high failure rate, whether that's for technical reasons or budget or time or whatever. And we're going to be talking about something that's also notoriously hard within software development, which is modernization.
Yeah.
Jay here. Just a quick break in the conversation to share how Trailhead can help you tackle your toughest business challenges. When you're navigating uncharted technology terrain, Trailhead creates custom software solutions that put you back on the path to success. Ready for the next step? Get started with an expert consultation at trailheadtechnology.com/offer. That's trailheadtechnology.com/offer. Now back to the conversation.
Yeah, and it's kind of back in the days before I moved to Microsoft, I was a consultant, and a lot of both modernization, a lot of kind of bringing, stuff from, I'm going to call it legacy in air quotes, to modern, whether back then it was modern .NET framework, like 4.8 was the cutting edge back then. But just getting projects done on time and under budget was, I don't want to say it was unheard of, but if you did it, you were pretty much celebrated, right? So,
Right.
It's for, a variety of reasons, whether requirements change or you hit some unforeseen difficulties. But yeah, shipping is definitely a feature. It's definitely so much of a feature as much as any business logic or requirements that are put into the application. Yeah, so you hit it right on the head, Jonathan. Yeah, getting stuff, reliable and shipping and out the door is really, it's hard. It's definitely difficult.
Let's talk about this tool. I know you've been talking about it quite a bit since November when .NET Conf happened and some of this stuff was announced. So the tool is called GitHub Copilot App Modernization. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
I was going to say, good job on getting it right, because I wasn't sure if I was going to get it. And I'm not even sure if that's right or not. Yeah, we didn't do a super great job. And don't tell marketing I said that. But it's GitHub Copilot App Modernization for .NET, because there's also a Java version as well. So, but so it's for what it is, and I don't want to turn this whole conversation into AI-assisted development, but I probably will, because I'm really, really excited about it. Sure. But for this particular feature of Copilot, it's an agent, so it's does stuff for you, right? And what it does is that twofold. One, it can migrate, what we're calling it. So you think of modernization overall as the top umbrella, and the first part is upgrade. So it upgrades your projects from like framework or even like earlier versions of .NET, like 6 or 7, to the modern versions. The modern, I hate using modern and legacy, but the later released versions of of .NET. And the reason why I hate saying that is because there's nothing wrong with being on framework, right? There's a lot of times you can't upgrade because one of the reasons why is you have other things coming in. Like we are as developers overloaded. Business doesn't stop, and we can't just, a lot of times going back and fixing things or upgrading things just isn't on the agenda as far as like shipping new things. So like there's nothing wrong with using previous versions. I mean, that's one of the great things about .NET. It works, and it's been working for a while.
Right.
All right. So now back to the App Modernization for .NET. Assistant might even be in there somewhere too. But so what it does, it brings you forward the upgrade portion to later versions of .NET. But there's also, and something I haven't talked about a lot in various like .NET Conf videos, or I even did a video recently that hasn't been released yet, probably will be by the time we push this podcast out, is I haven't talked about the Azure version yet either. So let's say we've upgraded to .NET 10, but you're still using like if you had a monolith, it's not going to break it up for you, right? So it's going to leave it monolithy, but it's, there you are. So what this next version is going to do is going to say, all right, you're using like the Windows, I forget what it's called, but the Windows queuing, message queuing, because you're running .NET Framework, right? So you're running on Windows. So you want to move it to Azure. It's going to say, all right, you could probably go to Service Bus here. It's going to figure that out and put all your Service Bus references in there, change the code over to use Service Bus, and now you can go up into Azure. So it's that migrate to Azure. So, I mean, we're doing terrible at our naming. So modernization, then underneath upgrade .NET, and then migrate to Azure. So terrible naming, but yeah, .NET and Azure are portions of this overall.
Sure. Sometimes upgrade, modernize, migrate. These are kind of used interchangeably by developers, but there are subtle differences between them, right?
Yep. They all, depending on which way you squint at it, they all can mean the same thing. But yeah.
Right. So one of the kind of obvious questions, especially for someone who's maybe been using GitHub Copilot already in Visual Studio, VS Code, command line, what does this add? What does the app modernization agent add on top of that? Well, like, why not? You could obviously ask GitHub Copilot to do a modernization with you, and it's not like it wouldn't work. So what does this add that makes it special?
Right. So recently, back even when .NET Conf and I did the presentation there, and I'll give you, Jonathan, the link for that so we could pop it in the show notes. But what it did there, it just kind of had like essentially a system prompt. And if you're familiar with like way custom instructions work or prompts or even custom agents work in GitHub Copilot, it's had, a custom agent mode that had a bunch of instructions for it. Like you're an expert in .NET Framework, you're an expert in .NET 10, and you know a whole bunch of stuff about migrating. And here's the documentation for it to go look. Kind of, sort of, that's what it had. So it had like this additional system prompt to help you out. What's in addition to that now, it also, what it does is it goes through and gives you a couple of things. Right now, there's 3 things that it also gives you. Is looks through your project, and I'm only talking about the upgrade here right now, not the migration, so the .NET portion of it. So it looks through your project and it gives you an assessment of things that it wants to do or things that it needs to do. So it's like if you have any old NuGet packages that have security issues in there, or if you're moving from, let's say, MVC up to ASP.NET Core, it's going to have like saying, all right, we're going to have to do all this, and here's the complexity that I think it's going to take on. So you can kind of take this originally and say, all right, and you can change, it's just a markdown file that it spits out for you. And you can either change it and say, you know what, I don't want to upgrade, I don't care about my security, no, but you wouldn't say that, but you can change like the scope of what it does. So that's your assessment overall. Okay. So it's like the first thing you'd bring back to your boss. Like, you're the boss of this agent, but it's going to bring back to you that. Then the next thing is going to do, like, if you want to change it or not, and because it's a markdown file, you could push it up to GitHub or whatever your source control happens to be. So now it's an artifact for you. Mm-hmm. The next thing it's going to do is come up with the overall plan of how it wants to attack. And that's one of the, I guess the one of the hot things now with agents in AI assisted development is actually coming up with the plan first before we go off and do anything. That really helps the agent out. So now it comes up with the plan again. Same thing, you can go through and tell it, does it step by step, like, I don't want to do it, step 2, forget about it, change it, or, this is super important for me to do, so make sure you absolutely get it right. And we have the plan. And then next, what it comes up with is the actual tasks for it. So this is our checklist of very detailed things. And again, you can go into it, edit it, push it up into whatever your source control is. And then as it moves through, it's going to check things off. And it's even going to keep notes on it. So it's almost like a memory for it. And that's the part that's going to take, it's going to take forever, right? It's going to take a long time. These things are not, if you have any project of a sizable, which most of our, projects are, it takes a long time, right? It changes one thing, it's going to go through, check, make sure it compiles, make sure everything else works, and it has to iterate over that. So, yeah. And that's where this memory of these tasks come in, that it can kind of check, all right, now I got this fixed, and moves on and on and on.
So this is where it's really important that the way you're interacting with this AI is more of an agent mode than just a chat.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be maybe not just go get a cup of coffee from the kitchen, but maybe go buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but here's the thing right now, and the reason why the tasks are important, and I'm kind of going off into, I guess, Matt land, not the official PM land. So, yeah, well, I don't care if I get in trouble. But one of the things that the tasks are important, or the tasks.md is important, is that, and the reason why it writes back to it is that we could run out of context window, right? So it needs to compact it or something. So eventually, if it runs out, it's going to have to go back and read it. And you might even have to tell Copilot to continue on with your work. You're cool to go, because it runs out of context when it's going to kind of throw up its hands and say, my brain is full. So, yeah. That's why
that plan comes in real handy then, so that it knows, what it's going to do, what it's doing, where it's at in that process, but it also knows it can look back and know what it still needs to do and what it's already done.
Yeah. So essentially it compacts the chat that it had, the reasoning, and it looks back at this plan and now knows where it is without having to guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this a minute ago, but if you're a developer, you can use this in a handful of places. I believe it's Visual Studio, VS Code, and also from the GitHub Copilot CLI. Is that correct?
It's Visual Studio and VS Code now. The roadmap probably most likely would have the CLI coming on it. Okay. I shouldn't speak for sure on where it's going, but you would think that the CLI is coming next if it's not there already. Yeah.
And you mentioned this as well already, but we've been talking mostly about .NET, which makes sense for our listeners, but also right now, in fact, the first thing that was supported by this was actually Java.
Yeah, Java got out the door a little bit sooner than .NET, much to my chagrin. But also works with Java. And so that's actually, that's cool, because a lot of the times, our shops aren't just .NET, right? We have polyglot shops out there. And, so whether you have to hold your nose and work with Java, or you're lucky to just be all .NET, you do have to modernize, right? And so modernize across the board, try to do it, even if you don't do it at once, bring parts of it over. And, that's the ultimate goal of this, is to kind of take the burden off of the grunt work, so to speak. Yeah.
Java, as I'm sure you know, is slightly older than .NET, and it's funny to show where we're at in the history of technology and like religious technology wars and so on, when .NET really came out to compete with Java, and that was the number one enemy. And here we are in a world where it's just tools like GitHub Copilot are just there to help developers get done what they need to get done, whether that's legacy .NET code, legacy Java code, or whatever, right?
Yep. I still treat it as the number one enemy, at least to my Java coworkers, just in fun. But yeah, it is kind of funny how we still kind of poke each other about it. But yeah.
So
So,
you mentioned there's kind of three different phases, I guess you could say, of what GitHub
mhm.
Copilot can help you with. There's the assessment, the planning,
Yep.
and the execution. I think you
Yeah.
already kind of talked about the assessment and planning. You also kind of alluded to some of the types of execution, but you talked a little bit about security. So it can help you, if I'm not mistaken, it can help you with some of your security. It can
Yeah.
help you with cloud migration as well as like updating frameworks and so on. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. So the individual, what I'll call the tasks, because I actually think it comes out named tasks.md or
Yeah.
similar. Tasks is in its name. So that's going to be your very detailed step by step.
Mhm.
And so what it does is it takes the assessment to come up with the plan, takes the plan and the assessment to come up with the tasks. And so this is saying, you know what, I'm going to take newtonsoft.json and replace it with system
Mhm.
text.json. So that's, really individual what it's going to do. And it's also going to say, all right, look for like authentication. We're going to make our authentication, move that over from Windows based over to ASP.NET
Mhm.
Core based, stuff like that. The Azure stuff comes in part two of the migration portion of it, which is totally separate. So the migration portion of it is you pretty much start over and run this. I should probably talk about how you kick it off. So you essentially right click. You can right click on a solution, click modernize, and then you can say, I want to go to Azure, or I want to upgrade the .NET versions, or you can even ask it, what should I do here? And it kind of
Mhm.
talks you through things. Or you could at modernize. So you're kind of talking to the agent. You have one of the collaborators inside the
Yeah.
chat that you can talk with too. So yeah, but anyways, you don't do them both at the same time, is what I'm saying,
Mhm.
which would be actually a huge, huge undertaking to do, go to 10, .NET 10 and Azure all at once.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be almost for sure failure. And since we're talking about
Yeah,
more
yeah,
successful software projects,
yeah,
we should
exactly.
definitely not recommend that.
Yep.
Um, well, this let's like really dive into it. I've been talking for the last few years about a couple of tools that this sort of supersedes. So you're probably familiar with the .NET Upgrade Assistant, which is
Hmm.
a tool that was more of a deterministic tool
Yeah.
that helped developers upgrade their .NET code. And now we're into the AI world. Now that might scare some people. It is less deterministic, but obviously it's much more powerful, right? It can know
Right.
things that the
Yep.
deterministic tool would have to be updated to know. So there's some power in that too. But one of the things that, as I've been getting my head around GitHub Copilot App Modernization for .NET, is that I've been trying to kind of understand is, in the old days when we were using .NET Upgrade Assistant, we would kind of think about, especially if it was an ASP.NET application, we'd think about it as a gradual migration.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there a shift in thinking when you're using an AI that's going to basically create a massive list of very detailed tasks for itself to do? Are we still thinking about that as a gradual thing, or is
Um,
that going to be a little bit more of a big bang type of
You
effort?
could really approach it as all at once if you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, but like you said, to be in the successful projects, that's you're almost setting yourself. I don't want to say you're setting yourself up for failure, but you're really, you're going up to the buffet and taking two plates back to your table
Right.
with it, right? You're really better be hungry at that point. But so this is where it's actually kind of cool in that you're going to have the files that it generates initially when it's doing the overall assessment. So you can say,
Mm-hmm.
all right, this is where, and you can chat back and forth with the AI. It's like, what do I have to do first? So I just want to upgrade, change my CS proj, over to the new style and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
take it really slowly, upgrade the NuGet packages, but not, do the basics first
Yep.
before I get everything, the more, detailed type work. So
Yeah.
long story short, you can take it in more than one phase, and you can almost do like the strangler fig pattern
Yeah.
around it, where you just finally, subsume everything. So it's really up to you on how you want to do everything, because you could start it over, right? You kind of get part of it done, and you just, come back to it and say, hey, what do I have left? Modernize, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of keep on moving with it. Now, with that said, I haven't tried to take a huge, huge, huge monolith and push it myself. I know there has been some companies who have done it, like really large companies that I'm not sure if they have public. Anyways, big companies have tried it and have been successful doing it. So, which speaks a lot.
So it sounds like as long as you're kind of doing that assessment planning stage and then you're really reviewing that, right? Like everything with AI, if you're trying to be lazy with your prompts or lazy with reading what it says back to you before you approve it, you're not going to get as good of a results as if you actually read everything and think about, is that how I want it done?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you can still do it gradually.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's hard when the AI comes back with that wall of text and says, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and you're really great for, that's a great observation. It's hard to read all that. So, I mean, that's where, coming up with these files kind of, I don't know, it helps you break that down where you just don't have the Copilot on the side, just spilling that all out. So you can kind of after it does it, take a break, right? Take a break, come back, read it, dissect it, pretend your manager gave it to you and you want to prove them wrong. So, and be careful with it, obviously, because, like every AI says, it might be wrong. So, yeah.
Well, that's the perfect transition to my next question. You've got right now these two tools, and the AI one supersedes the old one, the deterministic .NET Upgrade Assistant. As you probably know, you can still turn it on in the settings. You can go back and turn the .NET Upgrade Assistant on. There's a nice little warning in there that basically says, I'm opting out of all the great goodness that is provided by. But can you imagine, especially in this era where we can't necessarily rely on AI 100%, that there might be some deterministic scenarios you can imagine where the old one might be a little bit better choice at the moment?
You know what? I'm going to give you a bad answer and say no. Maybe 6 months ago, when before the reasoning models really hit. But right now, I'm not. I'm sure there probably is.
Yeah.
But
it's pretty rare these days.
Yeah. I mean, and I might not be the greatest one to answer that question just because I haven't been out in the field, working with customers, on these. But yeah, I mean, right now with just how good the models have become, like with the latest Opus and even, going back to Sonnet or, GPT 5.2. I know I'm talking about all the later models, but yeah, I'm not sure why you would, but I'm sure there might be reasons. So,
but very likely you would be shooting yourself in the foot, making it harder.
I think you'd be asking for more work, right? Okay. Yeah, and the good thing behind both the old Upgrade Assistant and this is that the same team had a lot of input behind it, and the same people are working, who worked on the older version are working on the newer version too. So you have the same,
that's good
institutional knowledge being moved over.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, this would be the perfect time to ask about success stories. You may not have success stories memorized. I read about a team, I think it was the Xbox team, that moved some services from .NET 6 to 8 using this and estimated that saved 88% of the effort that it would have taken them to do it manually. I know the GitHub Copilot website mentions up to 70% savings. What's been your experience as you've been out talking about this tool and meeting people who are using it? What kind of feedback are you getting?
So we're getting, gosh, I'm not sure if I can say customer names because, you don't want to.
Yep.
Yeah. But there has been, I guess, you know what? I don't want to say there's been mixed experiences, but there has been this, this works great. And, it saved us so much time. We did it within a week. And then there has been we can't, this didn't compile and start over. But, I think that's overall the thing with AI assisted development. The code is a commodity right now. If it blows up, check out main again and, branch it and start over. I mean, it's okay. With that said, I can't say company A has, they totally saw 80% reduction in moving because did they move that app over before? I don't know. I shouldn't pick on our marketing, but yeah, it's hard. So yeah, I've seen both. And the people who said before that they had more trouble was before like the assessment planning and the tasks stuff has come out. So I mean, I want to say earlier, summer of 2025 type work.
So that's good advice too, that if you try this and it doesn't work on the first try, number one, we can all learn to do better prompting, maybe try a slightly different process. But I think your point is also a valid one, which is you could try this migration probably tool 10 times. And if it fails all 10 times, you've still not taken as much time and effort as you would have to do it yourself. So there's a lot of room for trying different things.
Yeah. And don't blame yourself, right? I mean, just because you had your prompt wrong or whatever, it's not you. But yeah, I mean, I guess don't be afraid to, know when to cut your losses and start over. Because like you said, it's not deterministic. Yeah.
So you read a lot of things in the news right now about companies, CTOs, leadership sort of deciding to wholesale replace people with AI when it comes to programming. If you were advising a CTO or some other leader at a company that was thinking, hey, we're going to use this tool to do a bunch of legacy migrations that we have, what advice would you give them? Ways to use it, ways not to use it?
Right. Well, I would say don't lay anybody off, right? Because you'll be sorry that they're gone after a couple weeks, even after 1 week. And here's the reasoning behind that, because I do want to address, I think you brought up a really, really good point, and there's a general anxiety in the developer community that our jobs are going to be gone in 18 months. And that's not true at all, I don't think. I think we're going to be busier than ever in 18 months. And one of the reasons that we did kind of just hit on it is that it is easier to do the, I guess, the brute force type work of like these upgrades. Or doing like writing tests. We can offload that to the AI and then take on other things, right? So, Jonathan, let's say you had this wish list of features that you haven't been able to sell your manager, your customers on. Well, now you can go ahead and implement those super easy, right? And start, working on the other stuff like the big, the big, flagship new show feature, stuff like that. So I think we're going to be busier, and then you can just kind of. And once you start managing agents, you're going to actually kind of go crazier than that as well, just because there's many going on. So yeah, so my advice to a CTO would be, be careful what you do here in this. I guess we're in this liminal time between coding and what AI agents are going to do, because you're going to need these developers who know what happens. Like we can just feel, like when something happens, when you just look at it, it's like, oh, I know where this went wrong, right? So I can, steer the agent to fix it.
Yeah, it's nice to hear you say that. My take has been very similar. In my 26, 27-year career here, I've seen a lot of abstraction layers get added. And every time it's like, oh, they're not going to need us anymore because now this new layer exists. It makes it so easy. Everyone will do it. All that ends up happening usually is that we move up an abstraction layer and do more as a result. So this is maybe the ultimate example of that. It's pretty extreme, but it does feel like that's what's happening to me too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really interesting. Well, I have maybe just a couple more questions for you. So we talked about deployment to the cloud. I think another scenario that people should know about is containerization, which is a different kind of modernization. Can you talk about that and how the tool could help you with that?
That's a good question. And I don't know the 100% the answer of how it's going to throw things into a container. I haven't actually tried doing that yet. And that's actually something I should give a shot at and maybe make some videos around. So I would, or go ahead.
My reading on it so far has been that it can. I also haven't tried it myself. So it sounds like both of us need to actually try it.
Because when you think about it, just creating a Docker file or a Docker Compose file shouldn't be that difficult, right? Right? So yeah, I'll tell the team, why is this so hard?
Well, let me ask you a different question then. You've been talking about this now for a while, this new tool. I'm sure you've gotten lots of questions from the community as you've been out and about doing that. What do you find so far the most rewarding or the most challenging about helping developers navigate this new AI-driven approach to modernization?
I think the most rewarding part is when they kind of get the fact that they can do it without all the typing and without all the headaches, right? And that they can. It becomes almost I don't want to say a one-person job, but a very few person job to steer these things into a more modern framework. And it's because let's face it, I mean, when we have to do a migration from, let's say, framework to .NET 10, it's both a tough and a tedious job. So it's like, I just almost like, oh, this could work and take a lot of load off of me. Right. They relax, right? But yeah, the difficult part is like, oh, this is gonna hurt my job prospects. So you kind of, kind of leave that anxiety, and there is a lot anxiety right now.
There is. I do a lot of speaking at conferences, and I have noticed this pattern where there's a backlash already against AI. People are kind of sick of it. And then also at the same time, those talks are packed full of people.
Yeah.
And I think there's just an anxiety that's coming out in those two seemingly opposite ways. But
yes,
it's actually
for sure.
It's the same anxiety.
Yeah, I'd agree with you for sure.
Matt, this has been a great introduction to GitHub Copilot, App Modernization for .NET. I want to ask you one other question I ask all my guests at the end, which is, with this theme of modernizing apps or just having successful software projects in general, can you think of any other topics that would be good for us to cover on the podcast, or maybe someone we should invite to talk about that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that just before, and it's going to kind of stay around the same topic, but it's not included with the I'll just call it the assistant, the modernization assistant. It's not there. Yeah. But Jeff Fritz has been working on this, oh gosh, I'm not sure what to call it, but it brings web forms to Blazor. And so it's kind of this sibling project that we're hoping to be able to plug it in. And yeah, so right now it does this, the migration portion of App Modernization for .NET does not do web forms.
Right.
But a lot of people still have web forms out there. So Fritz is working on making that work. So that's actually a pretty cool project that I'm sure he would love to hold forth about.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. And I know Jeff, so I'll have to reach out to him and see if we can get him to come on here and talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Matt, thanks again for your time and your expertise. This has been really interesting and really helpful, and really appreciate you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jonathan. If anybody has any questions or concerns or comments, let me have them.
All right. Sounds good. Where can they find you online?
The best place is probably in LinkedIn, Matt Soucoup, Soucoup. I should have put it on my, just Matt here. But LinkedIn's the best place, really. Or matt.soucoup@microsoft.com. So.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again, Matt. Hope to have you back again sometime soon.
Yeah, we'd love it. Thanks, Jonathan.
That's the end of this Blue Blazes podcast. If you're interested in hearing more conversations like this one with industry experts focused on how to make software projects more predictably successful, make sure to subscribe. Trailhead can be found online at trailheadtechnology.com, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Until next time, thanks for listening.